I thought it might be a fun segue on this YouTube channel to jump down the rabbit hole of acoustic guitar building. So for this next video series, we're going to be building an OM acoustic guitar, similar but not identical to this one here. And I will try to go into as much detail as I possibly can on the what, why and how as we go through the processes. I have built a lot more electrics and I have acoustics, so there is every possibility that I may make the odd mistake on the road to success, but that's fine, we can learn together. If you've got any questions, stick your questions in the comment section below and I will answer them as they come up. And if you want to support the channel, please press the like button. That's the best way to get my videos to start showing up on the algorithm again. And I hope you enjoy this content. Thanks for watching. Now I've already run these woods through the drum sander just to get all the saw marks off so we know what we're working with. They're not at final dimensions yet. But I thought with this one I'd go a bit more traditional in terms of woods. So we've got some Sitka spruce for a soundboard, and we've got a nice set of Indian rosewood for the back and sides, and we're going to do matching Indian rosewood for the bridge and the fretboard, and I will put an Indian rosewood matching head veneer on as well. So effectively Sitka, Indian rosewood, that's going to make up the whole build apart from the bindings, purflings and bracing, etc. But I'll explain and show you what I'm using for that when we get to it. So I said I've already run it through the drum sander because you don't particularly want to see that. They're not at final dimensions yet. These rosewood sides are currently at about 2.5 mil. That is about the thickness I go for when I'm bending mahogany, walnut, black limber, etc. Any of those kind of like fruity woods. They're quite easy to bend, so we can go a bit thicker with those. There's a bit of flex in this, probably not enough, so I think I'm probably going to bring these down to about, I want to say 2.3 mil, and at the waist I might go a little bit thinner just to ensure that they don't crack, but we want to keep them as thick as we possibly can. The back here, this is at about 2.5 mil as well, which I think it's probably going to be okay by the time I've got these two pieces jointed and glued together. We'll see when we get there. I tend to get the pieces fairly close to dimensions before I stick them together, and that is simply because the drum sander can produce quite a bit of snipe. So if I run them in one after the other like this, then that reduces the amount of snipe there is, and it ensures that the timbers are an even thickness, and then I can just do the last little bit of thickness reduction once it's all glued together, and I can really sort of test the flex of the whole board. So the first thing we're going to do is get the top and the back jointed and glued up, and then we'll go from there. Now then, to joint my top, I've just got, this is my number 8 plane, lead on its side, very fine cut set, and this is just a random piece of wood that's fairly straight. Going to carefully run this piece of wood through here, and that is going to give me a perfect joint. We'll take in a tiny little slither. Now this probably would be easier if you clamped everything down, but I don't think there's really any need to. So I'm going to run this on both sides. We want to be careful of the grain direction. I can see the grain is running out this way ever so slightly, and then we've got this little knot type thing here, which I'm going to try and get the sound hole around there, so that shouldn't be a problem. But we do need to run the wood through this way or we'll get a bit of tear out here. And I'm just going to very carefully push that through. I'm going to see what that looks like. I had a bit of a wobble around here, but I think that'll be okay because that's going to be sound hole zone, and we're all currently upside down, I think, this way. So I can see there that joint looks really good, but I'm going to check it up against the window just to make sure we haven't got any gaps. I'm going to turn all the lights off and hold it up to the window, and hopefully I won't be in the way of the camera. This is a poor man's light box. So I can see I've got a tiny little gap, but if I push them together with not a lot of pressure, I'm pretty much losing it. I think there's probably a high spot in the middle here, which I can just bring that down with a bit of targeted planing. And I can see that the gap is moving down when I move this guy down. Or is it? Let's have a quick look. Yeah, so I think it's on this side we've got the issue, which is the side with a little knot. So I think I'm just going to take a bit more off of this piece here. So this is my LMI plate jointing jig, and how it works is it's just 3 pieces of wood going across, 2 going perpendicular with half flap joints on each side, and there is a kind of a little hook shape on the end of each one, and a length of rope tied to one end. The way this varies slightly from the LMI one is because I've got these hollow sections here, I can see the joint from the other side to make sure I've got good squeeze out all round. And the way it works is I'm just going to get some glue on, if I can get this bottle open. Just a little bit of bead of glue. We don't need much glue at all, because it all just gets squeezed out anyway, and it's a very thin joint. Hopefully that's still the right way around. So I'm going to push these 2 bits together. Now my piece of rope, I am just going to wrap diagonally around here, pull it tight. Same on the other side. And I shall try and get about 3 wraps in for each side. Like this. And then wrap it round. Do the same on the next one. And again, wrap it, pull it tight, diagonally, 3 wraps each side. Same again. Diagonally across. In a tangle. One more. And I'll do a few wraps there. Wrap it around to this end. And tie him in a knot. You can see this bit of rope is much longer than it needs to be, but I also use it for tying on my binding, so it comes in pretty useful. Right, so now that's it's not mega tight at the moment, but what we do now, I've got these wedges here with a bit of parcel tape on them, and we jam those through, and that pulls the rope much tighter So I've got a good squeeze out all down there now. And it also produces a lot of down pressure, which is going to ensure that the two pieces stay nice and flat. I might just have to come and tweak it in the gaps, but this is a good way of doing it. I've just got to jam this guy through. Same on this side. Just going to jam him in. There we go. Now here I can see it's all nice and flat. Just here it's a little bit off kilter, but I can just push down from the other side to make sure it's all nice and level, because I want them to be as close as possible, because I don't want to have to take much more thickness off of this before I do my rosette. I would like to get all that done without having to fire it through the drum sander again if I can. And that's it, top glued. So we'll leave that for, I'll probably leave it overnight, but it only needs a couple of hours in it really. So another method we can do for gluing, which I quite often do on the back, you can only do this if your piece of wood you're joining is dead flat and if you've got a decent joint. So we're going to use tape to do the join. The other one I couldn't do that because I needed to have the flattening aspect of the clamp for the Sitka, but this will work just fine. For the back, we don't need a lot of clamping pressure, and the thing with the back as well is that we've got the back strap to reinforce it, which we don't have on the spruce. So I'm going to fold him like this. We don't need a lot of glue. Maybe more than I've got mind. Now you see we've already got a good bit of squeeze out there all round. Now I'm going to get some more. This is Stumac, the paper binding tape, by the way. It's nice and stretchy, so it's got a good clamping aspect to it. So I'm just really holding this down, stretching this tape before I stick it down on the other side. There you go. I'm going to get some more on this side. And we're done. Now obviously I'm not going to leave that on my bench because it will stick to it. You can see where I've done this a few times before. That's it, we'll leave that until tomorrow. Then we'll cut them out. So I've just got this out of the clamp, and it still feels quite thick. It's about 150 thou, or what's that in millimeters? About 3.75 millimeters. There's not really a lot of flex. When I get a bit closer to final dimensions, I want it to just have a bit of bounce. If I kind of do that in my hand, I want it to sort of have a bit of a shimmer, or, you know, it really sort of depress when I push my thumbs in. right now I'm sure I could arch it over the 28 foot radius that this top's going to have, but it's not going to sound very good, and it's going to be fighting the braces. So I will bring the thickness down a fair bit yet, but I'm going to get the rosette in first, and before I do that I'm just going to clean up all this glue squeeze out so that we've got a nice level surface. So I've just got a probably not sharp enough cabinet scraper, but that's going to be more than enough just to get all this glue off and get this nice and level. Pretty close. That'll do. So before we get into rosette making, I thought I'd just show you, these are the plans I'm using. These are open license plans by C Grellier, and you know, they may not be vintage correct 1943 Martin OM, but I've made several triple O's and OMs loosely following these plans, and they've all been intonated well, and they've come out as good guitars. So I like these plans, and I'll put a link in the description to where you can get them. They're free. You just basically need to take a PDF down to your local printers and get them to print them out for you. Right now, the thing I'm interested in most of all is that measurement from the very front of the guitar to the centre of the sound hole. So that's going to tell me exactly where I need to plot my rosette from. And another important factor that I should probably mention is the OM is a 25.4 inch scale length from the nut to the saddle. I'm doing a 25.5 inch scale length, i.e. the Fender scale, simply because I have fretting templates that I can use on my table saw for that scale. I don't have it for the Martin scale, but the difference when you're playing is most people wouldn't notice, so it works well for me. Obviously, different scale length affects where the sound hole is going to go. So if you were doing a treble O, which is a 24.9, in my case a 25 inch scale, then you know, that sound hole needs to be in a noticeably different place. Whereas we're changing the scale length by just under 2 millimeters, I think. So effectively, by making the scale length longer, what's going to happen is my fretboard, rather than ending about 5 mil from the end of the sound hole, it's going to end a little bit closer, probably about there-ish. So I don't need to do anything in terms of plotting this or changing my bracing structure. But right now I just want to know what that dimension is right there. And we'll start plotting things on the soundboard. Regarding the templates, I actually printed out 3 versions of the plans. And that is because I wanted to make a template like this. I've got another version where I've just cut out little pieces of it and made them into templates. So, and one that I sort of keep on the wall that I can go and reference. I'm also just drawing around this with a washer, so I can cut it out with a bit of surplus material. That'll do. That measurement that I was talking about is 15 centimeters exactly from the very front of the guitar. So that hole, so the center of the sound hole is exactly 15 centimeters from the front of the guitar. So I want 15 centimeters from that line there, which is there. So that is bang in the middle of my sound hole. Now this is my OM body mould, which I bought from, where did I get it from? Guitars and Woods in Portugal, I think about 5 years ago. You can make your own, I just decided to buy it. What I've done with it though is I've drilled these holes here, and I got this idea from Driftwood Guitars a couple of years ago. They build acoustics with a CNC machine, and their CNC machine plots holes. I don't know how well you can see on camera, but these are offset. Because I don't have the precision of CNC, and I've got no guarantee that if I drill a hole through this MDF with a pillar drill or a hand drill that I've got exact precision. I've offset them far enough so that they will only ever go in one way, and if I put this on the wrong way, you know, it will be massively out of kilter. So that's why I've got these holes here the way they are, and what I'm going to do is just punch through these holes, and that's going to give me where my holes and my location pins are going to be later on. So I'm just going to give them a little tap with my punches. Doesn't need much of a tap, spruce is incredibly soft. Just going to make sure I can see those. One there, one there. And now I need to drill holes for my location pins, which are 8mm. And then I need to drill a 1/4 inch hole here, which is going to work as the anchor for my rosette cutter. I've upgraded my pillar drill since the last video I did, and this thing is an absolute beauty. Much more precise than my old one. Love the work light. Being able to see your pilot hole, etc. exactly makes life so much easier. And now I'll put my mould on, hopefully, with these rods here, if I can find it. And I can see my centre line, or my centre seam lines up nicely with that, so perfect. Now I need to cut this out now because the pillar drill won't reach all that distance. It's just a little bit short, so I'm going to cut this out first before I drill my hole for where I'm plotting my rosette. What I can do, if I'm careful how I cut this, I can use this strip here as the back strap for the back, because it needs to be cross-grained. So I'll do a cut across there first, and then I'll cut the rest of it out. And notice I've drawn out these little Prince Charles ears here. That way I can cut around where these location holes are going to be, because I don't want to cut through them, because that will defeat the point of them. We'll get this cut out first. Oh, the other thing is I've got a it's just basically a piece of wood with a slit in it, which effectively makes a 0 clearance insert. Because this wood will tear out if we're not careful, and this just helps to prevent that from happening. Now then, before I do any drilling or anything, I'm just going to use a compass and plot out my rosette where the inner and outer dimensions are going. So this is going to be my sound hole. I'm just rubbing some oil in. This is Crimson Guitars penetrating oil, linseed oil, shellac I think are the norm for this. I can't find my linseed oil, but this will do just fine. Now I'm going to drill a hole for the centre point for the rosette cutter. I don't know why I'm being careful, that's all going to get cut away. Never mind. Right, so to cut my rosette, how this is going to work is I've got a pin here which is going to go in this plywood backing board, and then I put my soundboard on there like this. Now the blade on my router is set to about a hair under the thickness of my flame maple, and that's because I don't actually want to cut completely through it if I can help it. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this outer line here, and I'm going to start up here because if there's any issues with starting, then it will happen in a place that's hidden. So I'm just going to put it over this pin here and never start. So that's my outside cut done. Now I'm going to switch to my maple and make the exact same cut. Now I'm going to set this to my inner dimension, which looks about right. I'm going to tighten that back down, and same again. Back to my maple for the last cut on there. So that's both of those pieces cut out now. Let's just test this. This is my rosette in the middle. That fits in there nicely. And then the middle piece will do the same. So I'll need to remove all that material from there. But before I do that, I shall need to remove the excess material from here, and I'll need to clean all this up because this is all a bit on the fuzzy side. So to clean this up, I will just take a few passes with the router until all the material's gone. This is my little miniature Veritas, what do you call it? There is a name for it, I can't remember. But it comes in very handy for little jobs like this, or if you need to make a truss rod channel slightly deeper in places, you can just use this little dandy thing. Now I've just got a bit of 240 grit sandpaper around a straight flat block just to clean up these fuzzies a bit. I'm just going to put a little cut in the top of the rosette because it makes it easier to fit the thing. There we go. I'm just going to go tight bond all round. Expect that's plenty. I'll try and make sure I get it on the side walls. Just sanded this back and it looks okay, but this inside piece is a bit gappy and uneven. See, it looks like it kind of wobbles around here, and I think that's because my router bit's just a bit too wide for the purfling. So I'm going to see if I've got some thicker purfling and just I'll just reroute that and glue it in off camera, and then we'll carry on. So I've rerouted this channel, and typically I didn't have any purfling that was the right size, so I've cut up some veneer strips. This is black poplar and a maple, so I've got two black, one white, two black on the other side, so effectively this is going to be very similar, just slightly thicker than the outer ring, so it should still be in keeping. And if it looks wildly different, then maybe I'll just route the other channel as well. We'll see afterwards. Hopefully this is going to fit nicely. Let's have a look. Trouble with having lots of pieces like this, they're a bit whippy and difficult to fit in. I think it does actually fit though, and they should be easier to bend given that they're so much lots of thin pieces rather than already laminated pieces. Looks like these are going to go in, I think. They're just going to be a bit fiddly. Right. Maybe I'll try one black on the outside first, see if that goes in a little bit more easy. Yeah, it's much better actually. I think the two black, one white was maybe just a teeny bit too thick. And I've got to be careful how I push these in because the black veneer is extremely fragile. There we go, that looks much neater already. So I think I'm just going to get some super glue on there. I'll leave that to dry naturally because if there are any little gaps anywhere, we don't want them filling with white super glue residue. So I'm just trimming this flush now. I can already see it looks considerably better than it did before. The only trouble now is that my centre strip is not as white as my outer one, and I think this one looks better, so I may end up coming back and redoing the other one with my DIY purfling instead of the shop bought stuff. So after getting my new purfling in, I decided that I didn't really like the fact that this purfling was kind of a yellowy maple colour and this one was perfectly white, so I rerouted that and just put the same in again, and I think it looks a lot nicer now. The black stands out a lot more as well. Now that I'm happy with it, I am going to cut out my sound hole. So I lost my inner ring when I was sanding this before, so I've just put a little pencil mark so that I know where I need to cut. I've also put some masking tape underneath here and a couple of drops of super glue. That's just to stop this moving around when I cut all the way through it, because I don't want the router to accidentally take a nick out of it anywhere. So I'm just going to do a shallow cut first, and then I'll gradually work my way down until I've cut all the way through the soundboard. I'm pretty sure I'm all the way through it now. Let's have a look. There we go. So I'm ready to thickness my soundboard now, and I'm going to start by just taking a bit of material off the top just to tidy everything up and get it nice and smooth, and then I'm going to take the rest of the material off the back. Now, the thing to note about the drum sander, first of all, you don't want to use 80 grit on this drum. 80 grit will leave really deep scratches running the length of the soundboard, and if you do 80 grit all the way down to final dimensions, you will end up sanding your top possibly too thin by the time you've got all those scratches out. So I've switched this out for 120. The other thing is, you do not want to take too much material because this wood is so soft. You know, there's a chance that you can actually crush the fibres in the wood and you'll end up thinning your board down by squishing it rather than actually taking material away. The final and possibly most important thing is snipe from the drum sander. So the drum sander is one big drum, and then both before and after the drum, you've got two small rollers. And effectively what happens is once the wood gets past that first roller, which is supporting it, basically the drum can take more material away. So the easiest thing to do is to just use some offcuts. These are offcuts from the body here, and I'm going to run those through before and after this, just overlapping a bit, and that's just going to reduce that opportunity for snipe and make sure that this is an even thickness. If we don't do that, we'll end up with a back and a front that will be thinner than the rest of the top, and we want it to be consistent. Hi. So I've got this thickness, and it's all tidied up and looking really nice. That rosette is looking great. And thickness wise, we are at about 2.8 at this end, and then slightly narrower, between 2.6 2.7 on the very outside, and then at this end, where are we? 2.7 at the bottom here, and I can feel now, you know, it's got a bit of flex, and I can feel just a little bit of bounce when I do that. So this is the right thickness now. So the next thing to do is to get some braces on it.